Today we have Dom Zimmermann, the head of R&D at Ozone. We need to talk about this power pack. What has led you guys to think about a new model?
We kind of started from scratch to make a Parawing that is designed for quick packing and fast redeployment.
So maybe let's start from the bar and let's work our way up in the Parawing. What has changed in the bar?
The bar system has changed drastically.
The lines themselves changed?
We have worked with our supplier on a new line material.
The external A's are separate from the middle A's.
It's for easier stowing.
How does it go upwind compared to the pocket rocket? What is the wind range of the power pack like? What's the bag look like? Is it the same bag? Different bag? Accessories? Anything in the pipeline for you guys?
Yes, indeed.
When is that one coming? Because that's something I would use, I think.
Maybe Christmas.
Welcome to the Lab Rat Foiler podcast. My name is Dan, and today we have a recurring guest, Dom Zimmermann, the head of R&D at Ozone. Welcome back, Dom.
Yeah, thank you for having me a second time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you guys are pumping out some interesting things, so we have to bring you back. We need to talk about this power pack now. So you recently introduced a whole new Parawing into the market. And I normally start with a little bit of context with our guest, but you have been on the podcast already. If you want to learn a little bit about Dom and his history, you can go. I'm going to link down in the description to his first interview. You can check that out. Today, we are really going to be talking about the Power Pack and everything that the Power Pack is and who's it for. So before we get into that, give us a little bit of context of what has happened within Ozone. After the launch of the Pocket Rocket, it was a really successful Parawing in the market. I dare to say probably the one that has, probably the most successful one in the last 12 months. What has led you guys to think about a new model, and what led you to the Power Pack?
Yeah, I think we were quite overwhelmed with the success of the Pocket Rocket in the first place. But we also quickly realized what it's probably not so good at. And we kind of then started working on something specifically for that area where the Pocket Rocket isn't performing that well, which is mainly, it's got fairly long lines, which makes it quite performance upwind. It makes it easier for beginner to handle with because you just got, the Canopy is a bit further away. It's less hectic and stuff. But obviously the downside of longer lines it's not so easy to pack. So we realized that, and then instead of just using that very same design, we kind of started from scratch to make an actual Parawing that is designed for a quick packing and fast redeployment, which led to a reduced cell count, a bit more compact plant form, and way shorter lines and specifically designed bridle lines and so on. So it was a whole redesign process, basically.
Amazing. I like to hear all those things because when I think about my riding, I always think about not only stowing quickly, but the success rate of redeploying a Parawing and getting into the flow of your session. So those things are really exciting to hear. And so let's start from the beginning. Like, who is this Parawing for? And if you were to think about a persona that's going to be using this Parawing in the market, who's going to be enjoying this Parawing, you think?
It's really designed for people that are already into the sport of Parawing. It's not designed as a beginner wing or as an entry level necessarily. But it's for people that, looking for riding without a wing as much as possible, really. Having the wing stashed away or stashing the wing and redeploying it all the time, like one way or the other. so yeah, that's the strength of the power pack. Really, is the size of the package, being able to quickly pack down and
Hmm.
redeploying it very quickly with a very high redeployment success rate.
Love it. When you say it's not necessarily meant for beginners, is there something about the flight characteristics when you're riding it that makes it a little bit harder for beginners, or why is it more meant to people who maybe already are parawinging?
Probably it's more to do, if you're looking at the pocket rocket, how kind of easy it is to for anyone entering the sport to get going on it, and having that extra length in the lines and the canopy away from you, just dampens all the bar inputs and makes everything a bit quieter. While
Hmm.
having shorter lines, things are more reactive. It's a bit more. You got a bit more focused on your riding and making sure, you're putting the wing where it needs or where you want it to be.
Right.
And I think the power pack is a bit more forgiving. And additionally, the upwind angle on the pocket rocket is still easier to get out
Mm,
of. So you're still cranking a bit more upwind on it.
cool. Um, So I noticed a few things when you guys launched that teaser video probably a week ago now, and I watched it probably 50 times to try to pick everything that I could, all the difference that I noticed on the power pack. So maybe let's start from the bar and let's work our way up in the Parawing. What has changed in the bar? Has anything changed from the Pocket Rocket to the Power Pack? In the bar system?
So yeah, the bar system has changed drastically. We've now eliminated the central leader line, which was color coded blue on the pocket rocket, which went to the center of the bar, holding
Mm.
the central bridle line. This has been eliminated, and we're now putting basically a bow line. It's what we're calling it, between the front and the back of the bar. So that frees up the whole bar basically for your hands to grab on, to hang on
Mhm.
to. You're not having that stopper in the center of your bar as you used to. And yeah, with the bow line, basically the center bridle lines are suspended through that bow, which has another positive effect, apart from freeing up your hand space. But it's also the angle of attack change with that bow line is more on a ratio. So it helps you on a depowered mode to
Mm.
add more control on your wing. Um,
Mhm.
Steering still works quite well even when you're depowered. And then the powering up also works better because you're changing the angle of attack more smooth on with a bow line system. That gives you more range on the bar, so you're not stalling the wing out as quickly.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much the biggest difference there is on the
Yeah,
bar
that's
system. Yeah.
that's pretty big, and I've flown a few other Parawings that have a similar configuration, and you can really notice how much you can sheet in and sheet out and feel the wing go in and out of the power zone a lot more. Um, and I feel that's just great. Just having a simpler bar, like cleaner bar, I'm always for it.
Mm.
I always talked about having a clean bar. Have the bar length changed as well, or is just the line configuration to the bar that have changed?
No, I almost forgot about that. Yeah, but the bar length has been reduced as well. We were at 42 centimeters, and we cut it down to 36 now
Nice,
for all
that's
sizes. Yeah,
huge.
that's a good chunk off. Still gives you plenty of control on all
Mm.
sizes. We
Yeah,
found
and
that a
it's
good compromise.
underestimated how much it helps with stowing a
Mm.
small bar.
Hmm.
It's incredible when you get a big bar and you're trying to stow versus a tiny bar. Like everything just makes it 10 times easier to put everything neatly and redeploy neatly. So that's pretty cool. Connection points to the bar are still the same. You have those end points on the bar. Those are still similar to what you have in the Pocket Rocket, or that system also changed the connection points to the bar?
That's changed a wee bit. We've got a new bridle layout, which kind of the bridle lines now go through the bar ends instead of having pigtails. And this helps us reducing the overall length from the bar to the canopy again, making it as short as possible within an arm reach, even on the 5 meter. I know a normal person easily grabs the canopy within an arm reach now, which is quite nice.
Yeah. That puts a smile to my face. Because I saw in that video, and I posted just a couple of screen grabs, and I saw someone with an arm's length, and I'm like, if this is a 5 meters, and they are within an arm length, that's pretty big. Because a 5 meters is never easy to stow. But before we go into that, let's talk about stepping now from the bar into the line system. You talking a little bit about line length. Line length in all different sizes vary as well. So they go from the 5 meters, they're a little bit longer, and then they cascade down. What are the sizes, by the way, Dom, that the Power Pack comes in?
Yeah, actually,
do you remember?
Exactly, they are different in for every size, and the Power Pack comes in the same sizes as the Pocket Rocket 2.
Okay,
starting from a 1.9, 2.4, 3 meter, 3.6, 4.3, and a 5.
Cool. So we will have different line lengths for all the sizes, which is always great. And has the lines themselves changed, or are they the same lines that you find in the Pocket Rocket?
For the front lines, we have found or worked with our supplier on a new line material, which is quite exciting because, first of all, it's a little bit more meaty, so it's got more diameter, which is nice if you're sliding your hands through it. In addition to it, it has a very special coating, which makes the sliding process super easy and smooth. So that's the main difference you will feel on those lines. And additionally to that as well, they are much stiffer. So there's no more tangling on the front lines anyway. The mid and the back lines are still the same as we're using on the Pocket Rockets. But still, even these have increased in the stiffness slightly. And we have not experienced any tangles on the
Nice.
Power Pack anymore, also because if the lines are much shorter, there's less of the risk of them getting tangled.
Yeah, that was a big point that a lot of people talked about. The line length together with the type of line generated sometimes a little bit of the line catching on the bar, a little snags. So that's really cool. And I saw another thing that I was really interested in when you look at the A lines, and this is something that I do with my Parawings. I always put a little electrical tape on the middle 4 lines of the A lines, and I noticed that the line configuration on the Power Pack is now like the external A's are separate from the middle A's. Did I see that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and is that for easier like stowing, the A line stow?
It's for easier stowing, exactly. Yeah, we call it a center A riser line, where we have the center A lines coming to one line that comes out of the bar, and then we've got the tips going on either side. So they are suspended separately from the center ones.
That's awesome.
And that makes your packing way easier, again, lighter, because you're not trying to pull the tips in. You're basically flagging the tips out, and you're just pulling the center lines, the center A's in, while letting the tips flag out as such. They don't create much more drag, actually. And the whole processing of getting your your arm up to the canopy is way less hard.
Yeah.
Way more efficient and quick at that time.
I think that's such a great mod, especially in those overpowered situations where you have to maybe force, that stow. and not having to look at what lines you're grabbing. It's more of a
Hmm.
tactile feeling where you can feel, okay, I have my exterior lines and my middle lines. You know you're grabbing the right stuff. And when you're in that kind of extreme situation when you have to do things quick, that is so helpful. So I noticed that on the video. I'm like, I need to make sure that I'm seeing this correctly because I really love that. That's such a good innovation.
Especially
Um,
for us here, we testing a lot on the wave in Manawa, and
mm,
that wave you kind of getting on, and goes fully into wind. Um, so you're loading the thing up quite a lot, and then pulling your canopy towards you is quite hard work actually, because
mhm,
everything is fully loaded. So yeah, with this system now it's pretty easy. We also, another great feature we thought about is we not from the central A riser, which is 20 centimeter long. All lines going to the canopy are just straight lines. There's no more splits or anything.
oh,
Um,
nice.
and that, every split you have to go over with your hand.
Hmm.
Is a little resistance, isn't it? So
Yeah.
these are just straight lines, and it's super smooth now running your hands up to the canopy.
Yeah. It makes a difference when you're doing those sessions where you're doing multiple
Mm.
laps and you're stowing 20 times, catching your fingers on those little knots that,
Mm.
joint knots. It starts getting a little bit abrasive sometimes. So that's also nice. Let's go to the canopy now because again, looking at that video, it seemed to me that it's a lower aspect Parawing in shape. Talk a little bit about what's the shape about, and how did you guys come to that shape for the power pack?
So because we didn't really, the design brief was not to match the upwind performance of the pocket rocket at all. It just needed to be a very good getting up on foil, still being able to go upwind, but
Mm-hmm.
mainly using as a tool to get onto waves. Is it either downwind or wave riding, whatever you want to be doing? Um, it we try to make it as simple as possible. So it's with a reduced amount of ribs and cells. It gets away with very little material,
Mm-hmm.
which helps you on the package size. And additionally, as you can also see on the pictures, it has quite big bulging out between the supported ribs. It's what we're calling the parachutal effect that really helps the wing to generate a lot of power for going downwind. So
Mm-hmm.
you almost bearing off into a downwind angle when you get starting on a power pack instead of on the pocket rocket. You're almost facing on reach or into the wind.
Mm-hmm.
When get going on this one, you actually better get going using the parachutal shape of the wing, dragging you downwind.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's very much reduced to a minimalistic little nugget, if you want
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
The I saw, again, looking at that video, I felt like the trailing edge was so bold, like it was so tweaked in.
Mm.
I don't know even how to explain it, but it almost felt like it was brought down and it would capture a lot more wind. Is that the intent of having that trailing edge coming down and arcing down a lot more?
That's again, helping you to create a parachute style of wing for
Mm-hmm.
getting you up into a downwind angle rather. It's not super helpful for going upwind necessarily, but that's what it's not designed for.
Yeah.
So again, that cup trailing edge, creates a massive amount of lift, and all
Mm-hmm.
that makes it going getting onto the foil very easy.
Well, people will ask, how does it go upwind compared to the pocket rocket? And my personal opinion is you have a spectrum now that is like the pocket rocket is on this side of the spectrum where it's the, probably the best Parawing that goes upwind if you're not talking about a double skin. And then you have this side of the spectrum, which I think is where the power pack is, which is low aspect, good bottom end, less upwind capability, short lines. And then you have certain Parawings that sit in the middle of that. So you've gone from one side of the spectrum to the other. What upwind angles can people expect from the power pack compared to the pocket rocket?
It's definitely a few degrees less, and it's been shown in the product video that will be released any minute, quite nicely, where we do write them compared to each other, and you see the pocket rocket is way more going upwind. Our units, we kind of created a scale from 1 to 10, and we put the pocket rocket to 10, and the power pack is still at 6 or 7. I think it's 7 actually. Yeah, it's still fairly good.
Yeah, I think everybody will be worried about that, but I think a new Parawing coming into the market will go upwind probably better than anything that has come beforehand. Still to be confirmed, but that's a question that a lot of people ask in the groups, how well it's going to be, how effective it will be upwind and all those things. So good to know that it's still, a good 6.5, 7 out of 10. And if you're doing wave riding, that's the sacrifice, right?
Exactly.
You kind of have to sacrifice a little bit of that upwind angle to be able to pack something quick. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that comes about, and just feeling that Parawing will be interesting as well, because low aspect Parawings fly so differently than a high aspect Parawing. So can you give the viewers a little bit of a sense of what it's like to fly a lower aspect short line Parawing versus the pocket rocket that everybody already knows? And most people have flown the pocket rocket now.
Yes, they do fly quite differently. And the sensation is a different one. Me now, I must say, I'm really in love with the short lines. We're into the game for, 18 months now in the Parawing game. I personally haven't bounced long enough now to easily be handling those short lines. I think for the longer lines, as on the Pocket Rocket V1, does help you to, not having so rapid effects on your bar inputs. The whole system with the new bow bar, the new shape, and pulling on the bar, what you're really going to be feeling is you've got massive amount of range in the bar if you're pulling it on. Like it's only really stalling at the very highest angle on your bar, which is very nice to have, because you can just keep on cranking on without having to be very sensitive on your bar inputs. The shorter lines, I could even imagine that it's for some, it makes it more direct and therefore easier. I don't know really yet, but it's a nicer sensation. You're more connected to the wing as such, and then because you can see the canopy is just in front of your nose, and you can always just put your hand there to grab it. So you're always right there, or the canopy is always right there if you want to grab it, which is just very nice to, ride bumps and waves and stuff.
Yeah, I found the bow system of not having the beelines connected to the bar, it gave me a less direct feel of control. It almost gave me a slight delay on what I'm doing to the bar to what happens to the Parawing without the beelines connected to the bar. Do you feel that as well, or is this just in my mind?
No, it does, because your bar range is quite way bigger. Like the input you can put into the bar. So before you were moving the bar that much. Right now, with a bow system, you've got to move it that much. So you just got way more range in the bar, and you don't need to be so precise, especially if it comes to stalling the wing out.
Yeah. And then when it comes to that, I think that and this is just me spitballing ideas. Do you feel that this bow system would work on a higher aspect Parawing as well, or does it work better on a lower aspect Parawing like the Power Pack? Because being lower aspect, it's already agile. It'll turn better. It'll do all those things quicker. So giving it a little bit of less reactivity is actually good. You don't want something that is super,
Mm.
sensitive. So does that make sense? Or like would a higher aspect Parawing also benefit from this bow system?
I think you're right in the point of what, if it comes to reactivity, especially now on the Power Pack where the lines are so short, you're not really relying on the reactivity so much. On a high aspect, we've tried it. We've tried it on the Pocket Rocket as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you're sacrificing a wee bit, but the advantages of it are definitely outweighing it.
Nice. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
A little tip what's coming ahead there. Um, let's talk about the fabric. Any changes to the fabric itself or a coating system that you guys work? Any changes there? Because the fabric you guys used was pretty bloody awesome already.
Yeah, exactly. No, we didn't change anything to the fabric. It's well known. It's been proven on the Pocket Rocket to be, a good mix between very light with 32 grams and very durable. So we stuck to it for the Power Pack as well. Yeah, no changes there.
No changes. Cool. And when we talk about wind range, I feel the Pocket Rocket has such a good wind range, and I can be overpowered on that thing and work it out. Like it has incredible high end. What is the wind range of the Power Pack like?
It's pretty similar actually. You can still, on the top end, we've been on the 3.6 in 35, 40 knots,
Oof.
fully hanging into the harness and like, yeah, full on. That was just to test if it stays stable, which is always one of the main concerns on Power Wings,
Hmm.
which it fortunately did on the leading edge. The the wind range, because it kind of has that parachutal shape, it's
Mm,
probably gets you out a bit quicker if you're facing downwind, so it really drags downwind a bit better. But other than that, the top end is definitely very, very similar, at
nice.
least. Yeah, if not a bit better, probably. It just feels like because of the short lines, also you're feeling less sideways pull, and it's all a bit more dampened on the Power Pack.
Mm,
So the high end is actually quite nice to, you're feeling comfortable and not overwhelmed by it.
nice. Um, I feel like now people will start asking questions like, okay, we have the Pocket Rocket, we have the Power Pack. I want to build a quiver. I want to have a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. Which pair of wings should I buy now? Because I have my own personal opinion of what could work in different sizes, but I would love to hear from you. How can people start thinking about pair of wings in different sizes, in different models, depending on what they want to do, obviously, as well?
um, I would say it depends more on the what you're going to be riding. Like if it's swell, if it's upwind, downwind. Um, it's a hard question, really. If you if you're liking that feeling of having high angles upwind and speed and performance,
Mm,
definitely the Pocket Rocket in whatever size down to 3 meters, I would definitely recommend the Power Pack on the smaller sizes. If you're going
interesting.
out in New King 35, 40 knots, because you're probably more surviving than trying to get the performance out of the wing. If you're talking about 2.4s and 1.9s, and also the lower aspect just makes them a bit calmer and more stable in general.
Interesting.
So definitely the small sizes. I would recommend the Power Pack. Big sizes, especially if you now looking into a 5 meter, that's questionable the way you want to be riding.
Yeah, I because now we have the spectrum that I was talking about, super high end and super high aspect and low aspect. For me personally, I prefer having the high aspects in the lower sizes because I can just crank them upwind so hard, and I feel like the more wind I get on them, the more I go upwind. Like you dig an edge and you just crank upwind. When it comes to the fours and the fives, then I feel that high aspect shapes, they start becoming too much, and I lack a little bit of the bottom end because it's lighter wind as well. So then I prefer having something like the Power Pack where I can get up quick, shorter lines, shorter,
Mm-hmm.
canopy width, so it's more maneuverable. So that's how I'm thinking about it. For the bigger sizes, I feel like I would have Power Packs 4 and 5, and then maybe everything lower than a 4. Personally, I think I would still prefer the Pocket Rocket.
Fair
And this
enough.
this
Yeah,
is how,
we've got to
yeah.
we've got to find that out. I can't, and it's personal preference as well. I don't.
Totally.
Yeah. Mm,
And look, if I'm gonna be riding waves and I need a 3 meter, then I need a Power Pack. I wouldn't choose the Pocket Rocket over that because I feel if you're riding waves, the biggest hurdle in riding waves is getting into the wave, not super far back, but getting in close enough of where it's going, the power zone is, and packing things down quick.
mm,
Getting and that leads me to like my second point of what I wanted to talk to you about as well is the accessories that we currently have in the market, because we need things that allow us to stash the Parawing maybe even in different ways to be able just to like go to the A lines and put it somewhere without having to fold it, because wave riding is so fast, so critical. Have you guys been thinking about accessories that might complement, styles of riding? The belt that you guys launched was by far the best belt that we have and still have, in my opinion. So, what can we expect in terms of these possible accessories? Anything in the pipeline for you guys?
yes, indeed. We're working on some refined, definitely the stash belt that we've launched earlier this year. That's going to be refined, not much, just a little tweaks here and there, making it a bit more streamlined and just cleaning it up a bit. And additionally, we use that very same shape of this stash belt and put a bit more reinforcement onto around the back, um, like webbings but also foam to make it a bit more comfortable to ride as a harness.
Mm-hmm.
You hardly see a difference if you're just looking at them visually, but you will feel it when you're riding. So it's much more a harness style, and it's called the Stash harness.
Mm-hmm.
Comes in 3 sizes, which of the medium large one will just be based off the current Stash harness. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
smaller and a bigger version additionally, a size. Mm, the harness that's what we've been riding all the time now. We're not riding the belt anymore because we also just riding with harnesses always hooked in.
Nice. Yeah.
I think for us anyway, it just makes sense. We're looking at upwind angles, looking at fatigue, having long sessions, especially on Parawings that they still have relatively quite a lot of sideways pull compared,
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking at wings or other devices, they still, create a lot of pull if you want so.
Yeah.
And having to transfer that through your arms into the board foil, it just wears you out. While if you're hooking into a harness, you can just relax and free your arms.
Nice.
Mm.
Oh, excited about that. I want to see a new belt coming out. Um, I did jump one question here that I wanted to touch on about the leading edge and the leading edge profile of the Power Pack. How does the leading edge compare to the Pocket Rocket's leading edge? Is it thicker, thinner, about the same?
It's a little thicker, but not that much. We've been changing the plastic rods inside to a bit of a sturdier, heavier one,
Mm,
just to make sure even in the strongest winds we're not seeing any deformation, and
hmm
just to make it really rigid, and because we got so few ribs really, um, every single rib has to withstand a lot of wind forces. So yeah, we beefed them up quite a bit.
And when you think about maybe a slightly thicker leading edge, does that give you more wind range, or does that help you with the flight characteristics of it going further into the wind window and helping you with upwind angles, or what does that give the Parawing?
It's basically, the thicker the leading edge, obviously, the more drag you're having. But that drag isn't necessarily bad because it's also uh, calming the wing down, and
Mm,
it helps you with, generating a lot of grunt power to get
hmm
going again. Um, and since we're not looking for massive speeds or upwind angle, this is what we ended up finding it as the best compromise.
Nice. So
Yeah.
have you been riding the Power Pack mostly these days, or do you ride the Pocket Rocket?
Yeah, these last days or last weeks, month, we were pretty much purely on the power pack. We obviously not stopping, so we've been working on a new pocket rocket as well in parallel, which we hopefully going to be releasing in April.
Mm,
And
nice.
so yeah, obviously now that the power pack is out, we've been more focused on the pocket rocket V2, and we'll be
Did you
riding that a
notice
lot more.
Yeah. Did you notice any change in your gear when you were riding the Power Pack compared to the Pocket Rocket, like foil sizes or board sizes? Did you have to change anything due to the Parawing, or it was basically the same stuff?
It was still the same stuff, really. Yeah, I'm still riding a fairly small board, a 55 liter,
Nice.
and still on a 880 front wing, something like that. That's kind of
Beautiful.
my preferred setting. Yeah, I think that's the nice thing with. I think we talked about it in the first episode, where I said we're going to see a lot smaller boards being
Yeah.
ridden in the future. I think this is still going to happen, or is happening already with the power wings.
Look, I'm super excited about this. I think now that we can see the brands diversing and just opening up their line and having different power wings is awesome, because people want different things. They want to ride different styles of riding, and having more power wings just gives us more options. So thank you for that. That's always nice to have. Dom, is there anything else that you want to talk about the Power Pack that we haven't touched on? Could be anything, little things. What's the bag look like? Is it the same bag, different bag? The bag that it
Yeah,
comes in.
the little stuff bag is basically the same design as the pocket rocket. We've added a second shoulder strap, which is now adjustable, so you can wear it as a little backpack.
Nice.
And it has a little breast Velcro strap to connect it, so you can just use that bag to put your spare wing in if you want to take
hmm
it out. Just be aware it's got a mesh panel on the back, so water will flush into the spare Parawing on your backpack. Um, but yeah, it's a very simple but functional design. What else have we not touched on? Well, maybe
Colors. What
talking
colors do they come in?
talking talking on the bags. Maybe first, we've also, as an accessory, working on a trail running inspired backpack,
hmm
which with a waterproof compartment to put up to two spare Parawings into roll top closure, breast pockets for your phone, for your devices, food, GoPro, God knows what.
Nice.
Very clean, simple, lightweight. So that's a very exciting product. We've been using it all the time, especially for us. We're going testing. We always just put the backpack full of wings and then go out, and we can swap the wings easily with that
That's
system.
awesome.
Yeah, but also I think for anyone going out at sea, it's good to have a spare wing with you, just in case of you're breaking something, you're losing your Parawing, or you're running out of wind, and so we're always going with a 5 meter as a spare one if we're doing a downwinder, just in case the wind drops or whatever. There's always the biggest one to at least get you drag you back onto shore.
And you can fit a 5 meter and maybe a 4 meter in that backpack?
Easy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's plenty of space.
Good.
There's another compartment for a hydration bladder, and it's basically the full spec that you want, but in a very compact little shape. Yeah.
All right. Well, when is that one coming? Because that's something I would use, I think.
Maybe Christmas.
Oh, okay. Line it up.
No, it's
Line it up, boys.
It's pretty finished. It will be coming in the next weeks. Or will be available in the next weeks. Yeah.
Amazing. That just makes me have to edit this podcast very quickly now, because I wanted to launch it before these things come out.
Oh, they shoot.
So we're shooting on the 10th of December, so people know, but
Sure.
I'll try to get this one out quick. Dom, this was really a quick catch up, just to really touch base on the Power Pack. Everybody's really excited. The Parawing Facebook group has been going off, and everybody's been commenting on everything that they saw about it. So I think there's a lot of hype about it, and I can't wait to see the launch video, understand all the little nuances. But thank you for coming on and giving us a little bit of an insight of what's coming up in the future for you guys. And thanks again, mate.
Just thank you very much for having me, and for the people listening. And I hope everyone enjoys the new products as much as we did in developing them.
Amazing. Christmas is here. Put it on the Christmas list. And put some accessories down there as well, because, by the way, they might be coming. So let's get on to them. Dom, thanks again, mate. And we'll touch base soon.
Awesome. Thank you.